This is present day Emily. It is the Sunday before I leave for vacation. This video has been sitting in my drafts for weeks. Whoops. I forgot that I filmed my April wrap-up video, but I never edited it. So here it is, very late. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for being here. Hello. Welcome back to Emily A to Z. I'm Emily, and I'm sick. I'm ill. But we're gonna do a reading wrap up with my pig. Isn't she cute? This is a Squishmallow. I've never owned one. I've never been interested in owning one. But, sorry, you're gonna be picking up wind sounds because my window's open. But I bought this because I love pigs. And she's adorable, and I couldn't say no, and my husband named her Petunia. So she's with us today. Why am I not at work? Because I woke up this morning with horrible, vertigo and dizziness and a headache, where I barely made it out of bed and stumbled dizzily to my bathroom, and you know what comes next. So I called in sick, and I'm filming this sitting on my bedroom floor because I don't have to be up to do that. And I need to film it because this is the only time I'm gonna have this week to film this video because I'm home alone. So let's get it done. I read, surprisingly, a total of 10 books in the month of April. That does not feel real in the slightest, but I did. And I have all but 2 of them with me. So, several of them I showed and talked about in my library week vlog. So check that out if you haven't. I'm actually really proud of that, where I tried to read a book every single day of that week, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm not going to go into depth for any of those here, and some of the others I have ideas to make a different video project. So this is really just a reading wrap up. I'm going to show you the book, give you a brief synopsis, and then tell you what I rated it, and that's it. We're gonna move on. I want to make it short and sweet. 1, because I don't feel good. 2, you've already heard me talk about these books. Or 3, you're gonna hear me talk about these books in depth. So, ba-dum-bum, let's rock and roll. Also, Eisenhower is a cutie, asleep on the bed. Kennedy's around here somewhere. Let's do this. So, starting with that Library Workers Week vlog, the very first book that I read that I don't have is, of course, Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. That is a historical YA coming of age story set in the 1950s following 2 young girls. One is a Chinese American young lady who is straddling the line between being the perfect Chinese American daughter and doing what she wants to do, and coming to terms with herself and her sexuality. And then we have Kathleen Miller, and they strike up a cute little romance, and then of course things ensue. I gave it a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cute. I just was really disappointed with some of the timeline issues, and the ending was not satisfactory for me. Moving on. Then I've got How to Mars by David Ebenbach. This is following a group of scientists and individuals who are living on Mars. They are trying to colonize Mars and create a living, functioning thing on Mars. And one of them gets pregnant, which was a big no-no because they weren't supposed to be doing the stuff that gets you pregnant. But they did anyways, and then the whole book is following this pregnancy journey and how they're supposed to adapt and deal with that. So overall, I also gave this book a 4 as well. I really liked it. It had some mixed media elements, so if you're interested in that, it had between stories to in parts of like a manual to like scientific observational notes. I really enjoyed it. It just, the author wrote originally parts of it as like standalone short stories, and then later on went back and like fleshed out the fuller narrative. And in my opinion, you could just really tell that this started off as like short stories and it really wasn't cohesive in parts, but still enjoyable. Obviously though, it is a pregnancy story, so if that's not something you're interested in, stay away from it. Moving on, we have Going Dutch, which was my first DNF of the month. Yes, I said first. I actually DNF'd 2 things last month. Crazy. Going Dutch by James Gregor. If you remember, I misspoke and called this a debut awful, and I'm sticking with that. This was supposed to be his debut novel following a young man who is struggling with his like graduate thesis. He's hit a wall, he's hit writer's block, he doesn't know what he's doing. So he strikes up a friendship with a young woman, also in his like graduate program, thesis, doctoral, whatever program. And she basically offers to help him write his stuff, but ends up just writing it for him. Meanwhile, he is also trying to find himself a boyfriend. And of course, one thing leads to another. He ends up sleeping with her, and he's also juggling like a relationship with a man. And of course, it's going to go back and forth between who does he pick and what are the outcomes of it, because with him and her, she obviously has reasons to be upset if they break up because she's writing his like thesis, versus this man. I really didn't get to the point with the other guy because I quit at like 120 something pages. I gave up after he slept with the woman, and I talked about it in depth in that video in my vlog, Library Week vlog, where the writing was awful. It was very pretentious. It just was like, I hated the main character, and I hated this idea that he is gay except for her, or what I mean, like, or that she could change him. You know, he just didn't have the right woman yet, but with her, he's actually straight. He just didn't have the right person. Hated it, DNF'd. Do not recommend. Then I have, and I don't rate my DNFs. Next, I have My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Atessa Moshfegh. This was my first book by her. I know she's written quite a few, and they're all kind of weird. I definitely think I'm going to pick up more because I liked it. I am learning. I like these weird books. I like the premise of these weird little books. I read the weird books, and then I rate them fairly high. I had a lot of 4s in the month of April, considering I DNF'd too. But this was great. We are following our main character, who remains unnamed for the entire book. Basically, she is like recently graduated, is hella depressed, and does not know what to do with herself. And she decides she wants to hibernate for like a full year. And she goes on this quest, meets this crazy ass psychiatrist who is willing to prescribe her a shit ton of pills. And she just takes pills and like blacks out. And then of course she does weird things in her blackout that we really don't explore, but we do get insights into her psyche and like her past and what was going on with her parents and her relationship with her best friend and like that toxic dynamic. It is so weird, but I flew through this. I read it in like 2 days, and I don't know. I don't know. I liked it a lot. It was a 4 out of 5 though, because it is really weird. There were a few things that I just kind of struggled with, but I mean, if you like weird little books, this might be right up your alley. Moving forward is Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin. This is a horror novel set in like a post-apocalyptic universe where we had this horrible pandemic called like the T-Rex virus that affected men, or those assigned male at birth, who produce large amounts of testosterone. It affected them where they essentially became these like zombie beast type people, and so that part of the population went utterly savage and feral and started attacking people with the sole purpose of either or eating, but with the main focus on breeding and passing on their line, because if they successfully breed, then all of their offspring are male, and so then it This was hella violent, hella tense. We are following we have a trio of four. We really focus on like 4 main characters, 3 of which are trans. We have 2 trans women and 1 trans man. And then we have a doctor who is a cis female. And they are dealing with how to survive and thrive. So obviously we have our 2 trans female who need estrogen. They need medicine to be able to continue staying the way they see themselves, staying female. And then we have our man who, he can't take excess testosterone to be the man he wants to be, because then he could become one of the problems. So it's an interesting dynamic. And it was just hella violent, like gratuitous violence and gore. So if that's not your jam, this is not going to be for you. I ended up giving it a 3. Then we have a graphic novel, which I don't read all that often, but I had found this on Webtoon, the actual website Webtoon. This is Everything is Fine by Mike Burchell. This is volume 1, and it collects episodes 1 through 16 of the Webtoon comic version, and I ate this up. Like I said, I found it originally online and started reading it, and then realized that they've got a couple collections. There's at least 2 volumes that are bound as a book that I could get from my library. So I did that, stopped reading it online, got this, and was really excited to physically have the copy. I flew through this in like an hour. It's very easy to read. It's very large. But yes, we are following these individuals with these like cat masks, and everything is fine. We don't question what's going on. Everything is fine. We're perfectly normal. We have a house, we have a dog, everything's fine. And I love that premise. I really love the like Orwellian 1984 kind of vibes of you're being watched constantly, and if you say the wrong thing or you do the wrong thing, like they're gonna know. Neighbors are spying on neighbors. You can get reported. There's a lot. Mind you, it's a 4.5 because I did finish this rather confused. I don't know what's happening. I didn't fully grasp what's going on, and I don't know if that's just because I'm dumb or if I just didn't get it, or like it wasn't explained properly. I don't know. So it's fine though, because I love it and I'm in it, and I'm happy to report I have volume 2 on my shelf right there, and I'm going to be starting that hella soon. I'm just knowing that I'm going to finish that, and there's not a volume 3 out yet. And then I'm going to have to play this game of like, do I go read it online or do I wait? I'm probably going to read it online, but then it's on like hiatus right now. And there's probably a cliffhanger. Like I'm going to hit a cliffhanger, and then I'm going to be like, Mike, where's the graphic novel? I've never felt this intense about a graphic novel before, so that's really cool to me. Now, moving on, I've got a couple that you have not seen because I have not talked about them in a vlog. That's crazy. So let's talk about this one that you have not seen me talk about, period. So let's do it. This is Mongrels by Stephen Graham Jones. This is my first Stephen Graham Jones. Should I have started this Stephen Graham Jones with this? That sentence was convoluted. Should I have started my journey with Stephen Graham Jones with this book? I don't know, but I did. I am familiar with Stephen Graham Jones because he wrote The Only Good Indians, and he has also written the My Heart is a Chainsaw like trilogy that is hella popular, and he's got a lot of like short stories and short fiction. But I saw this, I grabbed it. This fit I needed a yellow cover. So I grabbed this, and this is a twist on the coming of age werewolf story. This one is intense. Since I have not talked about this one anywhere, I will read you oh hey, my bookmark. I talk about these whenever you see them. I recommend them if you struggle like me with reading, staying focused, or if you are dyslexic, anything like that, or you just think they're cool. I highly recommend these bookmarks. They are large. These are like a couple inches, 2 inches, but they are see-through, like plastic. They all have this like blue line in them, and they are made so that way you can hold it up to a book like so and use it as like a reading guide or a reading template. You could even hold it this way if you want, like if you wanted a bigger section or a smaller section, however you want. I use it like this and I move down my page. Okay. This top section usually is enough to hold 2 lines of text. Sometimes not if the spacing is weird, but it'll hold 2 lines of text and you can just move it down the page. I love these. I am not dyslexic, but I am ADHD, and I have a horrible habit of like either not paying attention to what I'm reading, or I will like skim ahead and then I didn't actually take in what I read. I just skimmed. This keeps me focused line by line on what I'm reading, and then I find that I actually even read faster when I use these because my attention is fully on that line, and then I'm just down the page. So love these, highly recommend. Check them out. I think I can leave a link down below I bought them off Amazon. I will leave them. I'll leave it in the description if you're interested. Anyways, back to this book. We are following a spellbinding and darkly humorous coming-of-age story about an unusual boy whose family lives on the fringe of society and struggles to survive in a hostile world that shuns and fears them. He was born an outsider, like the rest of his family. Poor, yet resilient. I don't know why I'm being dramatic, but here we are. Poor, yet resilient, he lives in the shadows with his Aunt Libby and Uncle Darren, folk who stubbornly make their way in a society that does not understand or want them. They are monsters. They are mongrels, mixed blood, neither this nor that. The boy at the center of Mongrels must decide if he belongs on the road with his aunt and uncle, or if he fits with the people on the other side of the tracks. For 10 years, he and his family have lived a life of late-night exits and narrow escapes, always on the move across the South to stay one step ahead of the law. But the time is drawing near when Darren and Libby will finally know if their nephew is like them or not. And the close calls they've been running from for so long are catching up fast now. Everything is about to change. A compelling and fascinating journey, Mongrels alternates between past and present to create an unforgettable portrait of a boy trying to understand his family and his place in a complex and unforgiving world. A smart and innovative story, funny, bloody, raw, and real, told in a rhythmic voice full of heart, Mongrels is a deeply moving, sometimes grisly novel that illuminates the challenges and tender joys of a life beyond the ordinary in a bold and imaginative new way. So, yes, we are following a young man. His mom has unfortunately passed, and his family are werewolves, and they have to run from place to place, so they can't stay anywhere for too long. Hey, there's Washington. Because it is dangerous for them. They might get caught, they might be found out, and unfortunately, he has not shifted yet. He has only been as a human. He does not know if he will shift to become a werewolf, or if, for whatever reason, the werewolf gene passed by him. His mother was not a werewolf. His aunt and uncle are. So he doesn't know if he himself somehow also didn't get it, or if he did. And the whole thing is that, like, when you turn 16 or 17, if you haven't shifted by then, you're not going to. So we're following for the last few years. It's like, I think it starts when he's like 11 or so, and it tells through time where he's like, he desperately wants to be a werewolf. So desperately. His aunt wants him to not. She doesn't want him to have to be a werewolf and to deal with this and to grow up and be like her and her brother. His uncle is like, yeah, man, part of the family. But it just follows their exploits again as they travel across the South, how they run from the law, they are trying to hold down jobs, and the way that they have to live and survive. I really enjoyed the fresh take on some of the werewolf lore. I did really enjoy some of that. There's just like a fresh spin. But I think overall, I gave this just a 3. It felt a little all over the place. They kept, like it said in the synopsis, like the past is catching up with him, and it never really felt like that. There wasn't this like overarching like big bad that was following them, that was trying to get them. There really wasn't. They were just running from place to place. And even I was like, I don't get what you're running from. Where are we going? Why are we trying to get away from something that never catches up to them? Except for like the aunt's husband follows them around. It was, yeah. And there were just a few times where like the writing it made me feel dumb, where he would say something and I would be like, I don't get what he's trying to tell me. And then maybe a little bit later, or a couple pages, it would then explain it. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. but I don't like being made to feel dumb just so that the author can have a like aha moment later on. So just a 3. I feel like I have to go back and check these books now to make sure there's no bookmarks in any of them. Because I'm taking these back to the library. They are due. Oh, do you want to know how I read some of these? I should probably... Physical. 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 Last night at the Telegraph Club. Audio. Audio. If I had read this physically, I would have DNF'd 100%. The audio made me get through it. Physical. Physical. Started off digital, but then physical. Next. Ooh, yes. Next, we have Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. This was part of the Goodreads Top 20 2022 horror picks. I say that differently every single time. It's fine. You did not hear me talk about this, and I will not be going into in-depth in this because this is in its own video. Because I am now into the top 10 of the 2022 Top 20 Goodreads horror, and so I decided to break those out and make them their own video, going through the top 10. So this is Just Like Mother. We are following a young woman who, when she was young, was in a cult, but then the cult, she got out of it, was adopted into a nice family, and now she is an adult, and she is trying to navigate the world with like this experience of fear and loneliness. And then lo and behold, sorry, I put the book down. Lo and behold, her cousin, her childhood cousin, at least that's what she was told they were when they were in this cult together. Turns out they actually are blood related. They are cousins. Her cousin shows up, reappears in her life, and is like wealthy and successful and has everything she doesn't. Our main character does not have anything because she just is like floundering. Cousin shows up and is like, let's reconnect and let me take care of you and all of this stuff. And they start getting closer and closer and closer, but she just can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. And it is unhinged and wackadoodle. And I gave this a 4.5. I will tell you again, this does center around babies and pregnancy and cults. So if any of those things are going to make you uncomfortable, this is not for you, especially because I don't care if you think this is a spoiler, the cult is focused around motherhood and babies and pregnancy. So if that is something that is upsetting to you, just be aware. I personally have discovered now with 2 books about pregnancy in April that apparently pregnancy books make me really uncomfortable. I don't like to read them. So that is not why this is a 4.5. There was just a couple things in here that I personally did not like, but it was fine. I do recommend this if you think you can handle it. It is really good. It is really unsettling, and it has stuck with me. I still think about this. It is still in my brain, and that whole culty aspect of like, are you ever really free, is really well done in this. Then, oh, okay. Then I did read a nonfiction because April was my read a nonfiction, and I read Atomic Habits by James Clear. I listened to it as an audiobook. Sorry, I listened to this as an audiobook as well. The audiobook was fantastic. Highly recommend. Like, I'm sure this is fine, but the audiobook of this, fan-fucking-tastic. Moving on. Atomic Habits by James Clear. My husband listened to this and then asked me to listen to it because he really liked it and he found it very helpful. And then I listened to it in one day. It's not that long. I think it's only like a 5.5 to 6 hour audiobook. I listened to things at like 1.5, 1.6 sometimes speed, and I blew through it in an afternoon on like a Wednesday on my day off. I just stuck it on and did all my stuff around the house because I had a bunch of chores to do, and I stuck it on and I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, this is like a 4.5 for me. I found it incredibly informative. I stayed engaged with it. I didn't, sometimes with nonfiction, my thoughts will wander and I get bored and I start to kind of go sleepy. That did not happen. I think it helped that I stayed very active during the day and was doing something constantly, but Yeah, very informative, very cool. I knocked it down. It's not a 5 only because he mentions a lot frequently that like he has resources that you can use on his website, but if you try and use those resources, it will prompt you for like a receipt saying that you purchased this. And obviously listening to it, we borrowed it, like listening to it as an audiobook, or if you borrow it from like the library, you don't have that information to get those resources. So I struggled with that. I didn't like that because I was really interested in getting those resources to use them for myself, and I can't because of weird capitalist stuff. But I check it out if that's something you're interested in. My husband and I have been trying to implement some of the practices that he talked about in the book with forming good habits and like changing your routines and stuff. And yeah, it was really cool. It was like, oh, wow. And he definitely called out, I was like, oh, I fall into some of these traps, but my husband also falls into some of these traps. And that was cool. And then last but not least, the last book that I read in April and unfortunately was a DNF is The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. And this is also a Goodreads. This is in the top 10 of the top 20 2022 horror books. And I DNF'd it. I gave it a good try. It is hella long. This is almost a 500-page book. The audiobook is like 18 hours. I had the audiobook and I DNF'd like 6 hours in. I made it 170 pages in. I got to chapter 22 and I went, I'm done. So the whole premise with this book, is a quick idea, is that we are post-COVID, but a new pandemic has happened that is passed by mosquitoes, where if you're infected, you become overtaken with what is called the violence, where you like black out and you go into this all-consuming rage where you will focus on one target and you essentially will stop at nothing until that target is dead. You will do whatever you have to do and you become horribly violent. And we are following a young woman in a horrible situation. She is in a domestic violence situation and her 2 daughters, and she is desperate to get away from her husband. When this plague happens, she's like, hey, use this to my advantage, and I can get my husband out of our lives by claiming that he's been infected. That's all in the synopsis. That all happens within the first several chapters, and so then the rest of the book, I can't even tell you what is happening with the rest of the book. She goes on the run, her mother is involved, like it just becomes really weird. Now, I think it has potential. I personally, I feel like I'm talking poorly about the book, and it's really not. I think it's well written. I think it would be fine. I personally DNF'd it because I cannot handle the DV in this book, the gratuitous violence in this book. It was way too much for me personally. It triggered me. I've mentioned before, I have PTSD. This caused me to have some nightmares and to have some issues, and it was not worth disrupting my mental health for the sake of a 18-hour long audiobook, 500-page book. Her mother, the main character's mother in this book, is a horrible narcissist, and so is my mother, and I just was immediately triggered by that as well, and could not, any scene with her mother in it immediately like set me on edge and filled me with anxiety. And again, this is for me personally, and I don't mind to share this. I couldn't do it for those 2 reasons. I couldn't handle the DV situation, and I couldn't handle her relationship with her mother because it hit too close to home for that. So I had to DNF this, and that's why I'm telling you to protect your peace. Do not read or consume literature or media that is going to hurt you in any way, shape, or form if you don't have to. So I set this aside. Is it for someone? Absolutely. I'm sure it is. It's nice that the synopsis for the book, that she uses this like pandemic to help her get out of this situation. And then the rest of the book is like her trying to figure it out. I'm sure it will set up for something cool to happen. But it is very intense. It is very violent. There is blood, and this author does not shy away from descriptions of violence or acts of violence. So I've read Delilah S. Dawson before. This just was not it for me. And that's everything I read in April. At this point, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me. Books, man. Books. And with that, I'm going to finish this and I'm going to go read because that seems to be the only thing I can safely do today because it does not involve a lot of movement. So thank you so much for being here and for watching. I will see you all very, very soon. Be easy with your eyes.